In today's video, I'm going to teach you guys something that I've never seen taught or shared before that we lovingly refer to in our office as the donut method. This works extremely well if you're trying to market to the suburbs or around a gentrifying area, but you don't want the properties that have already exploded in value. Let's dive right in. In order to utilize the donut method, you're going to need some sort of a list pulling tool. In this video, I'm going to be utilizing Deal Machine. You can also do the same thing with PropStream, and you're going to need some sort of a list stacker or data management. I personally utilize Resimpli. You could also use REI Sift or one of the other various tools out on the market. Before I get into how to do this, let's talk about why. So when we look at most major metros, take Indianapolis, for instance, we kind of have this outer highway border that's 465. Then we have kind of the downtown area here that is, kind of this square right here. Well, one of the things that we've historically done very well with is marketing to the areas on the fringe of kind of the trendy parts of town. Even a little bit more scaled out than that, we'll market to, say, the commuter towns. So I might market to Pendleton or Lebanon, which I think is, right here. I might market to Shelbyville, but instead of competing with everybody else right here in Indianapolis, I'm going to target some of these areas kind of on the fringe. But if we want to get even more niche than that, like maybe you don't want to drive, 45 minutes to a project. Let's say that I'm targeting an area in particular, but I don't want either a rougher or more expensive part in the middle, like if an area has exploded with gentrification. For instance here, let's say for the sake of this example, I'm wanting to pull a list that is Indianapolis, which I've got pulled up right here in Deal Machine. If I move this guy over, right, hundreds of thousands of properties. I haven't put any filters on here, but you kind of get the idea. But I don't want to pull this center area right here. So typically when it comes to pulling lists, there's really like two ways to do it. We can either do it by zip code, by county, by city name, or we can use like a polygon tool. Most of the list pulling softwares have some sort of like a draw tool where you can actually like click points on a map and like carve out the shape you want to hit. Here's a limitation with that. If I want to hit Indianapolis, but I don't want to hit, say, the center, how do I do that? Historically, what most people do is they just rip the whole list, they hit the stuff they don't want to hit, and they hope for the best. If you're going around like a gentrifying area, for instance, you might think, well, I'll just value cap it. Well, tax records, appraisals, that sort of stuff, in my experience, doesn't update in real time. So how would we hit the stuff on the fringe without going in the center? Let me cut to my iPad real quick and kind of show you guys what I mean. So if I've got this particular part of town that I particularly like, but the problem is values have exploded and I'm not trying to market to the expensive stuff. What I'm really looking for is kind of the opportunities on the fringes. Well, if your market's like mine, in most instances, this isn't just like a zip code or a city name. It's a subset of a zip code. Let me show you a couple examples, right? So for instance, over here on the east side of Indianapolis, you've got this area, Woodruff Place. That's, kind of these older, more gaudy. It's a super cool part of town, a little bit rough still, but maybe I want to hit the areas around it, but I don't want to hit Woodruff. Or maybe I want to hit in the zip code of 46201, but I don't want to include Tuxedo Park because maybe I don't like that neighborhood. Maybe it's a little bit rougher. I could, in theory, like draw, 4 polygons around it. Clearly, I can't do the zip code because that's going to get the thing as a whole. Value capping it doesn't really work because all the stuff was built about the same age. It just maybe happens to be the areas around this is the stuff that I really like. So what we would do, if we scroll out, we're simply going to pull 2 lists and we're going to subtract one from the other. So if I wanted to, say, pull the Indianapolis list that I've got up here in Deal Machine, I would simply pull, save, and download that list. So I would get, everything kind of in this 465 loop. But if I didn't want the center here, I would simply pull a second list. So my first list I'm going to pull, right, is Indianapolis as a whole. I'm going to try to like freehand some of these random highways. Excuse my horrible illustration prowess here, right? So I would pull the green area first, and then the second list I would pull is this center. So what I'm effectively doing is I'm pulling the entire city, but then I'm literally cutting out the section that I don't want. So we could use this to remove parts of areas that we don't want to invest in, that maybe we like the rest of the zip code, or we could use this to focus on, say, just the stuff outside of the city if we're looking for things that aren't quite so expensive or aren't quite so competitive. What we're going to be left with then are going to be two lists. So the red list is going to be the stuff I don't want, and the green list is going to be the stuff that I do want. So I would literally go take these two exports. I would upload the first one into Resimpli, which is the areas I don't want. And then the second thing I would do is upload the areas that I do want. You can then literally filter for, give me everything that's on list 2 minus what's on list 1, right? So cutting out the red, let me stick with my color coding here so this doesn't get super confusing. What I'm then left with is marketing data that simply nobody else has. This isn't done by niche. This isn't done by zip code. This isn't done by polygon tool. It's literally me targeting the areas around the area that I want to be in, looking for places that are effectively in the path of progress. Now, as much as I love you guys, I'm not going to rip this list of 370,000 records. I don't even know what Deal Machine would charge me for that. But I am going to show you guys how I would do this in Resimpli. So here in Resimpli, I'm over here under list stacking. If I wanted to upload these lists that I've now downloaded and saved from my providers, I'd simply go to add record. I would go to bulk. I'd upload my file and I would name it. Going to repeat that a second time for the area that I don't want. Once I have both of my data sources uploaded into the list stacker, I would simply go into filter and I would go list to include, and I would pick from the drop down the name of that list that I wanted to include. I would then go to add filter. I'd go to lists to exclude, and I would pick the one that represents the center of kind of that donut. What I'm left with is all the great stuff around the center without the area that I don't like or can't afford. They say when you're shooting content, it should be like super broad and apply to tons of people in order to go viral. That's not my goal at all with this particular training. My goal is if you're marketing to, say, a particular part of town and you're getting leads on stuff you don't want, don't like, or can't afford, it's going to be to help you save your marketing budget to focus more on what you do like and less on what you don't. A perfect example to a list like this, I used to live in 46107. It's down in Beech Grove, Indiana. I actually lived like right over here off of North 12th Street. But one of the things we learned living there was we really didn't like this kind of pocket in here. There's really not a way for me to polygon tool in Beech Grove. I mean, I could maybe do 1 list, 2 lists, 3 lists, 4 lists, 5 lists to try to hit that sucker, or I can do 2. Hey, give me everything that's in Beech Grove. Hey, don't give me the stuff that's around the park, right? This part of town was like super sex offender heavy, so maybe I want to cut that out, right? You know your market better than I do, but a great use case of this is this area is on fire. Let me try to snag the stuff around it before it explodes in value too. Hopefully you found today's extremely niche video very helpful. My goal with this is to always be the resource that I was looking for when I first started out. I can tell you personally, I have wasted tens of thousands of dollars mailing places that I really didn't want to buy just because they happened to be in a zip code that had some other stuff that I liked. So learn from my mistakes, save your marketing budget. Happy hunting. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video and subscribe. Again, my name was Dossey. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you guys next time.